Hey, this is Elliot WaveSage. I want to go ahead and do a market update. And like always, none of this is financial advice. Always do what's best for you. So I've been traveling and I wasn't able to really do any videos, but I did want to just kind of recap the week. My last video, I mentioned we would have a bounce and a failure. Was most likely what would happen. The problem we had is the bounce was very tepid and it did not last very long in this area, so the connector wave was very shallow and it played out. So if you look at this could be 5 waves, and now we need another 5th wave down, so we could still push down more early next week to finish the correction. So we could see 431, 429. So keep that in mind. The other alternative is it's a WXY and the correction's over and we now will rally. So one or the other, it's tough to say, but this is an area of accumulation of where you need to start, buying the dip. This would be the area. We should see a bounce of some sort out of this, and then the market will either decide to make another swing lower, or it will continue higher in a massive move up to SPY 500. Now, this is the overall count I still have based on my RSIs. I have no change to this yet, so we need to just wait and see how this plays out. But this is kind of what I'm thinking. But you also need to start thinking something more bullish, because as we reset the stochastics, it gives it more fuel to go even higher than it would have in the before. So this may morph into a 3 of 3 and out and much higher. So that's why I like to be more aggressive here, because if this is going to be a 3 of 3 action, this would be the best time to buy it right now. And so there's no this is the bearish view, and the reason this view stands is the unorthodox bottom without capitulation. Typically that will lend itself to some type of rapid collapse to finish the bear market. We see this time and time again, this expanded flat type pattern, especially coming off of major lows. This is a typical move where it destroys the bulls and bears at the same time. So this is something that's expected, but there is, you do need to think about the other situation where you have something like a 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, and you go, well, why isn't this a 3 4? Well, it's too intense. It reset too many of the stochastics. Look, it's not a wave 4. You've pretty much corrected, so it's so hard. So you've essentially all the weak hands have folded. People are now super bearish again. People are loading up puts, and so it morphed away from a wave 4. And so a lot of people, I think, what will happen is make the mistake. If we do start pushing higher, is they'll start thinking not this expanded flat scenario, but I think they'll start thinking of it some kind of wave 5 off the low. And what I want to mention is I do think if we do come out of this and we can accelerate out, there's a good chance that this won't be a wave 5, and there's a small chance it won't even be an expanded flat. And then what we have here from this low is a 1 2, and then you have us 1 2 1 2 1 2, and you accelerate out in essentially a blow off top, one for the ages, where everyone is offside. Everyone's thinking, either it's gonna fail, it's an expanded flat, or it's some kind of grand super cycle wave 5, and they're all wrong. So that's why I want a piece of the action here, because I want to participate in this move, because either way, the likelihood of it going higher is more likely than not, given the setup. You have, it could be expanded flat wave 5 or 3 of 3. The odds of it being here is slim, because there's too many other individual stocks that are still 5 up off the lows that need another swing higher. So because of that, this is not likely to be done here because of that. Because individual stocks, there are many of them that are not in a position to go lower. They need another swing higher. So with that, I do think this is a more likely outcome. And I think what I'm trying to say is, even when we get up here, I wouldn't be too bearish, because if we start erasing divergences, then we're going to have a massive short squeeze. And a lot of traders will call this a 3, 4, 5. And really, what you need to call that is a 1, 2, 1, 2 out 3, and then 4s and 5s up here. And I know it's hard to believe that can happen, but this is what you need to think about. This is what the chart is saying at the moment. Now, right now with this B wave, I would just say that there's a chance, always a chance it bounces and fails and goes lower. If we start to see some of that price action, then you need to start thinking about the more of the bear market scenario. So we need to keep an eye on that. So this is like a critical moment. But yet, if we do end up with some kind of bounce and a failure, there's a good chance that failure could really have a waterfall sell-off and really change the whole nature of this wave count and potentially open and cause a selling cascade down. So to me, when we do find the bottom, this pivot is going to be huge. It's going to be you're pretty much once if it's ever lost, then it's back to short rips and it's back to the playbook we did through this whole downturn here. So I do think we'll get a bounce at some point. Again, we could still get one more minor low, depending on the structure. But once we get a bounce and we get that pivot's huge. It's huge. Okay. So then Dow Jones looks to me, again, we made a higher high. We're correcting this cycle here. We haven't corrected the whole thing yet. This looks like it should push higher. Again, I show the expanded flat for the unorthodox bottom, but don't be too bearish if we do get up to these areas because it can easily accelerate out and fool everyone. And again, this would be a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and you're out in a 3 of 3. And people won't understand it. Now the other option is again, someone could say it's a 3, 4, 5 and drop. So that's not likely because again, how much the stochastics have reset. One thing like to keep in mind too for like stochastics reset, and I like to mention the quarterly stochastic on the on Nasdaq. As you can see, the stochastic has completely reset. The last time that happened was 2009, and it's now wide open. So the market momentum is clearly higher in tech on the higher time frames. So that can also lend itself to this like blow off top idea that you may see. So again, I'm still showing the bear market view, but this could easily again become a 1, 2, 1, 2 and out in 3 of 3, and this doesn't happen. So if you're waiting, if you're like, I'm just going to wait to this, you may never get it. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to wait for it to bounce and fail. Well, you may never get that either. You may not get this. So that's why, again, I want to be aggressive in buying in this area because you're going to get a rebound, and then the market can stop you out if it were to fail. So if we get this failure here, then you just stop out at the pivot. So this is what I'm looking at right now. And like I said, so I still show the bear market view. I don't think there's any reason why not to show that view. But for now, I would say that regardless of what happens here, we should be bouncing. It seems pretty likely we'll go to new highs, and then the market's got a major decision, either a major crisis, financial crisis, or some euphoric blow off top with a crisis later in the decade. So that's kind of where things are. But this is a pullback that I think is you wanna be a buyer of. And then the IWM is already in the buy area and is finding support today. We'll see if it turns around. And again, for a bear market view, we should see it accelerate up. Small caps were doing pretty good today. So we'll need to wait and see how it comes out of this structure, and we'll figure it out later. But anyway, that's kind of the view on IWM. And then the Hang Seng broke this low. Uh, Watch the divergence. If we can erase this daily divergence, if we get just a little more downside, and I actually want that, then we can actually truncate and call this finished, and it won't see these levels. So I want to see a little bit of a flush on Monday, Sunday night. If we can get that, that would be perfect, because then it could truncate this correction. Because if we don't truncate it and we bounce now, then we know we're going to get another swing. And so, if knowing that, the market could be under some serious pressure still until this is finished. But I think this is going to puke and then erase this divergence that we have here. And then the correction, we could call it complete. And Bitcoin did take a dump, and I was warning people not to buy crypto. And it had actually accelerated through any stop loss area that you would have had. So now Bitcoin, again, could it be finished here? So crypto is notorious, again, for anytime you have these kind of overlapping waves, you usually finish between the 2 and the 4. So that would put you at like Bitcoin 23,500, and we didn't quite get there. So there could still be another push down, a little bit lower here. But we did get to the wave 4 low, so it'll be very interesting. I think you'll see a little more downside, but I don't think it's going to be that much more downside in it. Now, there's another the other option here is again another bounce and failure, something like this, and so that's possible too. So, but for me, I like it like this right now, and then higher and finishing up, and we'll see. Litecoin's another interesting one. It actually hit a buy area, and it's between the 2 and the 4, almost perfectly here in the 60 dollar area. It could push to the high 50s even. We'll see what happens there. But this is also telling you. So I think the crypto move, I don't know if it's going to spend a lot of time chopping around. I think it will come out of this at some point pretty soon. Oil is close to finishing its sequence higher, and one more push, and then it should peak and should start a deflationary decline to somewhere around $56 a barrel. I think this will be very positive for the market and then turn negative. But what do I know? We'll see. But I think this is going to finish up here. Now, there's a chance it could be done in 3 swings here, so I wouldn't get too bullish on it, but I do think it's got it's close to the end of its move here, the end. And then gold did break this low, and I want to see gold lower technically, but again, we'll watch when the divergences erase, especially on the daily here, and as you can see, we did erase that on the daily and the weekly as well. So what that tells me is the correction can truncate, and we may not make it down to these levels. So how am I playing? What am I doing with gold and silver? I'm just holding it, long-term hold, not trying to trade in and out. Because there's really it's hard for me to see gold drop into these levels that I've shown here. It seems to be more bullish than than it had been in the past. So I don't know if it's got a lot more downside from here, to be honest with you. And then silver actually held this low, even despite all the noise. So we can actually have a 1-2-1-2 setup in silver. That would have an explosive move out in a wave 3 of 3, which silver should hit $35, $40. So this is the setup. Now, again, the safer bet is it drops a little more into this area, but it didn't. But even despite that sell-off, it didn't. It held. So that's something notable that you want to keep an eye on. Now the bond yields are getting everyone's attention, but we still haven't taken out this 511 on the 2 years, so we could still have just a 3-wave move, and we could still be about to break down to these lower levels. This would be bullish for the market. And then the 10-year is just got one more swing to finish this 5th wave up, and then we should have a more deflationary pullback. Now, the 10-year is showing you, though, the bear market, the expanded flat pattern, maybe what we experience, and not some euphoric 3 of 3 or anything else, because if we do drop, we could see long end rates at 7-8% later in 24. If that happens, I'm sure the market will be way under pressure. So this would be a good bullish setup, and then a market crash if we get that spike. Once we pull this fifth wave off, and we actually have not taken that high out, by the way. So once we take this high out, then I think we would have to expect much higher rates in the future. But until then, technically, that may not happen. If we can hold this high, then this is just a corrective move, and we can actually continue lower in the pattern we've seen for the last 30 years in bonds. So this could be a great investment opportunity in TLT potentially. But if we take this, like I said, we take this high out, you could still play the long side on TLT, but then it will blow up at some point. So that's bonds is very interesting situation. And then of course here we've already have 5 up, so the short end of the curve should be going higher and putting market under pressure. Now if the 2 wave can come down significantly, that pulls down the target for the 3rd wave. So just kind of keep that in mind. If the 2 is done here, then it's going to be a catastrophe in rates. We're going to see 10% on the short end, and the market will drop significantly. But I don't. Again, it hasn't been able to do that. I don't think it's going to. If we do see a breakout in rates higher, a big spike higher, then we may even see that the bear market is topped. The connector wave is over now, but we haven't seen that. So this is kind of important to watch. And then the dollar index, again, looking for this W to end. It should end at any moment. That's why we're going to get that bounce soon. So just once we do, then we should get this pullback in X. But keep in mind, we could be here, and if we're there, then the market's going to rally to all-time highs. So there's no guarantee you're going to get what I have shown, but I do know that at some point it's overextended on the upside, the dollar index, and it's gonna need to drop some. So we'll see if we can get that drop sooner than later. Now it could still go a little bit higher, but that's what I'm looking for, something like this for now, and we'll go from there. We'll see what happens here. VIX, we wanted VIX at 20, didn't quite get it. Okay, so that's so again we have this 1, 2, 3, 4. We should get this 5th wave to finish it. This will finish the correction, and then you're done. And then it should essentially come all the way back down and maybe even lower. Now there's a chance that it's already finished here, and the count is just not clean. But we need to look at some trend lines on the RSI to confirm that. And let's take a look at if there's any way we can find confirmation. Right here, it broke, so it looks like if that's the case, then the market has bottomed. If that's the case, and so the VIX may be showing us an early clue that the market has bottomed, and we would change this count around a little bit, and that's the thing about Elliott waves. It's not a perfect science, and then we would end the count right there like that, and now it should, like I said, go all the way back down, which would bring the market up. Yeah, we got to 18.9 and 19.4, so we got close to the target. But just not quite enough panic there. But this was pretty good panic though. Just like I mentioned, we break the trend line. It started a selling cascade. Okay, so overall picture, I like buying stocks at the moment for this bounce. I think unless you can see the future, you won't know if it's going to fail again. It may not. It could easily keep going, and if it does, it will either become an expanded flat for a massive, essentially a crash, but it would be just the end of the bear market, not necessarily the crash of that everyone may think will end the world, but this will just be a massive 1, 2, and then set us up for massive gains in the rest of the decade to come, or it's going to be a blow off top, and this will just get out of hand, and it won't, and then you'll have some kind of 1, 2, 1, 2, go into a 3 of 3, 4 5s, 4 5s, and then a massive, I would say like a 1929 style crash as you retrace that entire impulse, probably all the way back down and fill these gaps here that we've never filled. But that's unknown. We don't know. I just trade the market. We're given, and right now, I believe buying in this area is a good idea. At least I do. But you got to do what's best for you. All right, I'll kind of click through some things. The commodities. Knowing oil's going to pull back. I left my commodities right now. I would say, that these could pull back in a counter trend rally. So we need to be careful here. So again, what's the count here? So this is some kind of A, B, and now we're about to finish C. We never got to this buy area, so this is just some kind of 1, 2 here, right? So you gotta be careful of that. Like this is Exxon, for example. The XLE is another one that want to be careful about. Again, we had this shallow 2, but it may not be. It could be a flat, and something like an A, a B, and then a 1, 2, and down. So I have a feeling energy is going to do another flush down with oil dropping, like I show you. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to FOMO into energy at the moment. And also even stocks like Schlumberger need to retrace. This needs to retrace. So there's a lot. That's kind of what I'm seeing there at the moment. So then the discretionary area, Crocs, like I said, is in a buy area. It's finding buyers here. This correction can be done in this area. So just keep that in mind if you're trading it. And again, use a stop loss. But some of these stocks are getting obliterated, so it can't, so you need to manage your money right. Wingstop's interesting. It just can't find any more sellers. It's just so I think this is about to come out of this finally. GoPro is actually too finding with the small caps interest and wants to come out of this wedge, and when it does, I think massive gains when it happens. Then the staples, nothing really interests me. I know Costco's always bullish to buy in a pullback. We're close to that 541 target. Let's make sure we have the right levels. So the target's a little higher. So Costco's in the buy area right now. In a buy area, probably in some kind of 4-wave. I know we're watching KDP. Want to see that pullback. Then crypto. So GBTC looks like it almost tagged the buy area at 16.95. I wanted to see it go in a little deeper. Here to pick that up again. LTCN hit the buy area and essentially launched out of here. Only a computer was fast enough to buy that dip, so it's more than likely that's in. And then there's some other, the miners. So the miners are very interested because you have to assume it's 5 waves like this. And like I said, based on my experience, usually the correction ends between 4 and 2, which would be at 721. So that does imply a bounce and a failure. I think this is likely in the miners. And so if this is likely, then you also have to respect the fact that potentially Bitcoin will do the same thing. where this 2 extends out. So I do want to mention that that you do need to pay attention for that, and then you get that dip to 22,008. So just be aware that this seems kind of likely. Looking at some of the miners, and then Riot is the same thing, looking for 714, but this is too extended. I do think we should get a bounce and maybe a failure. Now, if we were to just continue to drop, then you essentially have a crash correction, and then yeah, I would be looking to buy it here. So no way to know for sure. So I did want to mention that. Let's go to some ETFs. I know everyone loves to trade these for whatever reason, the leveraged. So TQQ is in a buy area, as you can see here. Want is in a buy area, I believe. The industrial one too is in a buy area. So as you can see, UDOW in the buy area. So all these are being supported. Of course, you never know. It could just dump. So you don't know. So you have to have a stop loss. But again, all that indicates the market is probably ready to bounce soon. Now, the semiconductors has always been one that people seem to really be interested in at the moment. So let's take a look at where they are. So semiconductors is in a different situation. It's either 5 waves down, but I think this is a connector. So I do think the semiconductors show it could have a little more downside, so you need to be careful there. If we were to bounce here, then that's just a bigger B wave, and then we'll come down later. So this kind of sequence shows me more downside is needed in the semiconductors. So think about that for a minute, and I think AMD needs more downside. So I do think that's just something you want to think about. But if SOXL could come into this area, that would be a great opportunity. Okay, something like that. Then just kind of looking through some of these others, like YNN, as you can see, broke this low here. So it's really invalid setup now. Although I do think it's going to play like this kind of game where it rips up and then crashes back down into. The other alternative is it's just going to drop and then finish too. But it really needs to hold that low. So one or the other, either you're going to get this or you're just going to get a massive capitulation early next week to end it, and then 2 is in. But the EDC is actually staying supported. Higher, high, higher. So higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. We really want to see that 26.15 hold to hold this setup on the emerging markets. So those are the ETFs. That's what I'm seeing. Healthcare wise, nothing really I want to talk about here. I know people follow QSI. I think it did hit the area I showed earlier as a buy, and it rocketed out of that. I think this is probably done, this A wave, and now we're in some kind of B wave connector that should fail again at some point. Don't know when, but maybe we'll fill that gap and then it would fail. So just keep that in mind. Now, could the correction be done? If it was a flat here, it would be done. So tough to say. It's a real tricky chart, but I think this is the more likely interpretation for people that are trading it. And then, yeah, I did show pod in my, my Twitter feed. It's still in the buy area. It's going deeper in this area. It really needs to, if it holds if it misses 182, it's invalidated, or really 192 here. So it needs to really start to find buyers. If it can't, then it's going to be some kind of flat correction, and it can go even lower. So we have to again see there's a lot of bullish divergence on almost every time frame. Let's take a look here. Weekly, everything's pretty much been all reset. So this is a major correction for this stock. It's still 3 waves, so we'll see what happens. But this pivot, when it does bounce, will be super important to hold. Okay, so then Let's go to technology and I'll end this. AMD, again, I needs to go lower. That's why the SOX probably needs more downside. Again, no matter what happens here, I think it's going lower. Wolf was a trade that didn't work out. I do call it as a triple now, and this is the area of support if you are stuck in it. As long as this low holds, it should be good. If this low breaks, then it's going to see the low 20s. But I already stopped out of it. I won't mess around with it. So SEP's lost, but you're in this triple. It really needs to hold these areas. It can actually still come out of this ahead, and it's again per Elliott wave. You do have 5 ups, so there's a chance it will recover at some point. I know it seems very people disbelief, but the technicals show that maybe we may get that bounce at some point out of here, but I'm not in that stock anymore. Watching Adobe, want to see that 481, and Wayfair's been pretty bullish. It made a lower low here, so that opens us up to 64. So I do think it's still got more downside in this area. If we do rip higher, then it's just a massive connector. Shopify is in 5, so it could be done at any moment, and then it more than likely will bounce and fail again. IONQ almost hit our target, missed it by a few cents, by about 50 cents, and now it's bouncing. This too can be done. It can also, of course, bounce and fail. Don't know. So, and then just some other ones like DraftKings. I have it in as 4 right now. It could still see a little more downside. Again, it broke its low here, so that could push us down to 22. Palantir here. So it broke this low right here. When I look at that, we need to look at the RSI, and you can see it didn't really break the connector. So you have to think of it as still in the C leg down, and then this is some kind of 1, 2, and then this is 3, 4. So it'll probably be something like from here, like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3, 4, 5. So it needs a little more downside, it looks like, and then it should finish out. Unity found some buyers, but it more than likely will bounce and fail again because this is so extended. But as I've said, there's no guarantee. So if you're just waiting and hoping for something lower, you may not get it. In SYM, want to see it at 29. So BBAI, if you're in that, it's looking at it again, still in 5 waves, a connector, a 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is it's just gonna impulse down, and you would expect that low to be respected. And at some point it will come out because again you have 5 up, so it's just if you're patient enough, you should see this rally out of it soon. RXRX, want to see it at 620 and fill that gap here. Already talked about QSI. First Solar, again, been charting with this for a long time. Want to see 154, 140. Enphase Energy, we're finally getting that wave 3 going. May not make it all the way to 71, but definitely I think it will go below 100. And then let's just take a quick look in China. Again, Baidu really deep in the buy area. NEO gave the warning, but this is a straight down crash correction. I mentioned that it could see this $7 area, and it's like I said, it's just kind of insane. The essentially the market did not give any bounce. It's trying to just trap. The bears are really coming with everything they've got. They're trying to come with everything they got. So this is going to retest the low. This is going to try to double bottom here in NEO. Okay, PDD is in a buy area right now on the trend line. Could also be a 1-2-1-2 setup into earnings. So we'll see what happens with them. Okay, so that's all I've got for this quick video. I'll try to do a live stream at some point tomorrow to answer your questions that you have. So again, what do I see in the market? We should bounce, and I don't think the bounce is going to swing down again. That's just my take on it. But you need to be prepared that a bounce could fail. And if we don't fail and we just continue to run, then you need to be prepared that it could go into a 303. In this setup may not happen, but we'll worry about that when we get there, because we'll see it in other instruments. Will give us a warning sign. But this bounce should happen, and then a major decision for the market, because either you're going to bounce to 451, whatever, and then it's either going to come right back down. And I believe if this happens, it's going to create a waterfall sell-off, and then you're really talking that this is in. So I think it's a very important moment. And then if that doesn't happen, then I do believe you're going to get what I have here, new all-time highs, and then the verdict is out on what this will end up being at that point. All right, guys, that's all I've got.